down below.
Alrighty, version 3.3 has released, and we have a bit of map content, as well as some quality of life additions, so let's get stuck into it. To start things off, a bit of a surprise and something very unintentional, the CAS variant of the Venom helicopter for the US Marine Corps. It has been accidentally left on Skorpo Invasion v3. As mentioned just before, this is unintentional, it's just left behind by QA, so we could probably expect it to be removed in a future hotfix. Now, it's not quite polished, it is still early days and not configured correctly. There are issues with dying to the rocket pod backblast when you're a door gunner, as well as if you're aiming ahead as a door gunner, you'll accidentally shoot yourself. However, the sounds for the weapons are solid. Narva has had some love given to it this patch, with 2 unique layers added, where heavy rains has caused the reservoir to flood. So the 2 layers, which are RAS v5 and Invasion v5, have a whole new dynamic to the map. All the efficient routes and all the efficient fob placements that you once knew are now obsolete on these layers. Now, it's quite a brutal map in terms of how it plays out. It's a lot more slower paced and requires a lot more teamwork. Now, there are some issues with the map when it comes to placing rally points and fobs. It won't work in certain areas due to the water, and this issue does extend towards placing down emplacements, so if you want a mortar fob, you have to think very carefully about it. Now, you can tell the difference between the deep water and the shallow water. On the mini-map, it will be displayed as darker for the deeper water. Now, I personally don't mind these layers. I think they're good for playing every so often, but not constantly. Because overdoing these maps will have a player fatigue effect, as the shallows are still waist height, which means that you're going to be running around at 0 stamina for half the game. Now, this on top of the fob placement and deployable placement issues also adds to that fatigue. But it is quite fun and has its own unique element to it that you won't find on other maps or layers, where say 2 RHIBs run into each other and you have these spastic shootouts. It's pretty cool. Skorpo has received some love this patch and has had a minor map expansion, where the island is now playable, though it has been altered and no longer represents how it is in the real world. Now, I'm not sure why this is done, but I'm guessing for gameplay reasons. With this minor expansion, we also get 2 new invasion layers, one with the Marines, which start out on an LHD carrier, and the other layer is Russia vs Militia, where the Russians start off on an island and then make their way inland. Now let's talk about the island. Before this patch, it was out of bounds and extremely low detail. Now, the new islands, they are also quite basic, but more detailed than what they were previously. I'm guessing it's just done this way as a staging ground for the invasion. But it'd be cool to see it have some more detailing like the island east of Lumberyard. Just some basic things like trench networks or docks and even just little villages here and there. I had an invasion idea where if eventually the islands have some point of interest added onto them and a lot more detailing, there is an opportunity to have sort of a unique invasion layer where the invading force starts on the mainland and the defending side is on the islands. Like this little layer I cooked up here quickly, where the green is the defensive side and red is the attacking side. You could even add in some little land bridges to make it easier for the defending side to navigate. A few maps have received some updates to the rivers, which are now a lot deeper than they once were before. The water to the north side of the dam is too deep for infantry, but to the south of the dam, it is all waist high. Now, just like the Narva minimap, the deeper water is marked a lot darker, so it is easy to identify. Waist high water has also been added to Kokan, as well as Tallil outskirts. Overall, it's cool to finally see this happening, as it adds a bit more emphasis towards bridge use, or even just hopping in the back of an APC that's amphibious or something. It also adds another dynamic where the infantry have to think about their approach a lot more. I think it would be cool to see a lot more depth variance when it comes to the rivers, where some places are more inaccessible for infantry and require amphibious vehicles just to get across, or they have to reroute and take a long way around. But if this is done, it has to be done in a smart way so it doesn't affect rollout, because it'd be quite shit if one team had the advantage because one side had deeper water while the other had shallower water. Now, with the Russians being added to amphibious invasion layers, they now have an MTLB logistics variant. It's just your typical shipbox with a high supply capacity and the addition of SLs being able to deploy a fob from it. A pushing functionality for certain vehicles has been added, so the small craft that you're able to push are RHIBs and motorbikes. though you might want to make sure someone's in the boat when you push it, as it sort of drifts out pretty far when you give it a good little nudge. The push functionality has also been added to helicopters. Unlike the boat, it's a nice little nudge and it doesn't get yeeted, which I was kind of half expecting. If the helicopter is engines on, it has to be turned off before you're able to push. We get some UI love, which is both quality of life and a new addition, where the squad player listing is in your lower left screen, which displays the role and their current state if they're in a vehicle or dead. If you don't like it, you can toggle it on and off, with the default keybind being Y. You can set your own keybind, you just simply have to go to Settings, Controls, General, and find Toggle Squad List. Now a nice change is that you can now see the radius of fobs from both enemy and friendly markers without having the setting enabled. So if you like less clutter on your screen, you're going to love this change. Another change towards the UI, with the minimap, when you zoom out, all blueberries will now be turned to a simplified circle. But your squad will still remain and you can see which direction they're facing. Now this is an alright change and it does free up some clutter, but I do think it should have a toggle with a hotkey so you can turn it on and off at will, because sometimes it is important to see which way a blueberry is facing. Anyway, this is the end of the video. I've covered pretty much everything I've wanted. Hopefully it was of use, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.